各位记者
Friends from media, good afternoon. Welcome to today's regular press conference. Now the floor is open.
Hello, a question from Folha de São Paulo. Yesterday, President Donald Trump designated 2 criminal organizations in Brazil as terrorist organizations, a decision that the Brazilian government disagrees with, that government allies and experts have described as a form of U.S. intervention in Brazil. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the United States is committed to dismantling these criminal organizations, which have already been the target of Brazilian law enforcement efforts for many years. What is China's comment on this U.S. decision to make such a designation? Thank you.
我们注意到
We know this relevant report. China upholds the principle of non-interference in other countries' internal affairs.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。中新社记者提问：中方去年提出了全球治。
China News Service, China's GGI or Global Governance Initiative proposed last year, has received warm response. Foreign Minister Wang Yi yesterday attended the meeting of the Group of Friends of Global Governance in New York. Can you give us more details? Amid international turbulence, countries call for fairness, justice, solidarity, and cooperation, as well as peace and stability. In September last year, President Xi Jinping put forward the GGI and received immediate support and response from nearly 160 countries and international organizations. The Group of Friends of Global Governance was established in New York, Geneva, and Vienna. Member countries had extensive discussions on improving global governance through reforms and reached common understandings on greater democracy in international relations, upholding the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, defending the central role of the UN, gradually bridging the North-South gap, and focusing on addressing real problems. Yesterday, the meeting of the Group of Friends of Global Governance was held in New York at the UN headquarters and was attended by representatives from over 60 countries. Foreign Minister Wang attended and addressed the meeting. He proposed 9 aspects for reforming and improving global governance. First, increase the efficacy of the UN reform. Second, improve the authority and efficacy of the Security Council. Third, enable peacekeeping operations. Fourth, pull international consensus for growth. Fifth, revise the direction of international human rights governance. Sixth, deepen the reform of economic and financial system. Seventh, rulemaking for AI management. Eighth, enhance governance of new frontiers. Ninth, promote exchanges between civilizations. Representatives from various countries at the meeting spoke highly of the GGI and noted that the 9 aspects align with the goals of the UN 18 initiative. They expressed the hope to jointly work for a more just and equitable global governance system. A joint statement was announced and issued at the meeting. The Group of Friends of Global Governance is a stabilizing factor and just force in a volatile world. China will work with others through the mechanism, jointly plan for reforming and improving global governance, and build a community with a shared future for humankind. Next one, please.
Thank you. A question from AFP. The European Commission is holding a meeting today where it is expected to introduce measures to shield European industry from Chinese competition. Does China have a message to the EU ahead of this meeting? Thank you.
中欧经贸关系的本
China-EU economic and trade cooperation is mutually beneficial and a win-win. We never seek the trade the protectionism will only undermine the interest of Europe. And we hope that the European side can fairly and objectively treat the trade issues. We will closely follow relevant developments in the EU and take all measures necessary to safeguard the legitimate rights and interests. Next one, please.
谢发言人，总台央视记者提问：我们注意到习近平主席在复信参加共
Replying to a letter from Chinese and U.S. students participating in a shared voyage China-U.S. Youth Friendship Program, President Xi Jinping noted that the target set in the 50,000 in 5 years initiative has been met 2.5 years ahead of schedule, was their comment. A few days ago, President Xi Jinping replied to a letter from Chinese and U.S. students participating in a shared voyage China-U.S. Youth Friendship Program. He noted in this letter that since he launched the initiative to invite 50,000 young Americans to China for exchanges and study over the next 5 years, in November 2023, more than 50,000 young Americans have come to China for visits and exchanges, meeting the target 2.5 years ahead of schedule. In the course of interactions, young people of China and the United States have reached out to one another, deepened mutual understandings, built profound friendship, and turned a new page in the friendly exchanges between the two peoples. Just as President Xi Jinping pointed out, young people are full of vitality and dreams. They represent the future and hope of China-US relations and also of the world. It is hoped that more young people from the two countries will take up the baton of the bilateral friendship, learn from each other and make progress together, act as envoys of the friendship bridging the Pacific Ocean, and make new contributions to the steady, sound, and sustainable development of China-US relations.
谢谢发言人。新华社记者提问：我们注意到5月28日至29。
From May 28th to 29th, Shanghai Jiaotong University and the Memorial Hall of the Victims in Nanjing Massacre by Japanese invaders organized the International Symposium commemorating the 80th anniversary of the opening of Tokyo trials. Experts and scholars from countries including China, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Russia, Germany, Spain, Australia, New Zealand, and Brazil have exchanged views on the Tokyo trials. What's your comment? We noticed relevant reports. Recently, commemoration events have been held in China and Japan and by the international community. These days, scholars from multiple countries have come to Shanghai to attend the symposium on the Tokyo trials. It is a strong testament to the international community's strong emphasis on the significance of the Tokyo trials, the common pursuit of humanity's conscience, fairness, and justice, which is embodied in the Tokyo trials, and the common concern over defending the outcomes of the victory of the World War II, safeguarding the post-war international order, and urging Japan not to repeat its past mistakes of militarism. The Tokyo trials, a litmus test of humanity's conscience, delivered historical justice. With neo-militarism rising in Japan and beginning to pose a real threat, it is all the more relevant to renew the backdrop, conclusion, and principles of the Tokyo trials. We will work with all peace-loving countries and people to firmly reject any attempt to reverse history's verdict on aggression. We also admonish Japanese right-wing forces to listen to the calls for justice and stop plunging further down the dead-end path of neo-militarism. The lessons of the history are still fresh in memory. Anyone who undermines peace and challenges righteousness and consciousness is bound to be brought once again before the court of history and justice.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
Good afternoon. A question from Reuters. There have been reports that a Canadian warship transited the Taiwan Strait. Is the Foreign Ministry able to confirm this, and do you have any comment? Thank you.
中方尊重各
China respects all countries' rights of navigation according to international law, and we firmly opposes any country to undermine China's sovereignty and security under the pretext of freedom of navigation.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。深圳卫视执新闻记者提问：据报道，日本政府近日公布的数据显示，
Japan's government machinery orders reached 5.53 trillion yen in fiscal 2025, according to recently released official data as reported by Japanese media. What stands out in particular is that orders from the Ministry of Defense have tripled over the past 5 years, making up half of public sector machinery orders. As a result of Japan's policy to bolster defense capabilities, was China's comment. We've noted the reports with deep concern. The reactivation and rapid rise of Japan's military-industrial complex represents Another major development in Japan's accelerating remilitarization is raising widespread concern both within Japan and across the international community. Japan's military-industrial complex was once deeply embedded in its economy, hijacks state decision-making, and fueled its war machine. It serves as a key behind-the-scenes driver and economic base for Japan's growing military ambitions, which led eventually to full-blown military aggression and expansion. Bear in mind the lessons of history, a series of legally binding international instruments, including the Cairo Declaration, Potsdam Proclamation, and Japan's instrument of surrender, explicitly require Japan to be completely disarmed and not to maintain industries that would enable it to rearm for war. Today, however, the Japanese government keeps easing restrictions and providing support for its military industry through allocating more funds, increasing institutional support, and easing restrictions. Senior officials of the Japanese government no effort to promote the goals in the international community and attempt to develop the military into an economic pillar of the nation. This constitutes itself should have from more than the
announced by the two countries locates east of China's Taiwan Island. Based on China's law and international law, including UNCLOS, China has exclusive economic zone and continental shelf in this area. Japan and the Philippines starting so-called maritime delimitation talks constitutes a severe violation of China's maritime rights and interests, international law including UNCLOS, and basic norms governing international relations. China strongly deplores and firmly opposes it and has lodged serious protests to both Japan and the Philippines. China states that the so-called delimitation talks between Japan and the Philippines are completely illegal, null and void, and will have no effect whatsoever on China's claims to the rights east of Taiwan's island or on China exercising its lawful rights and interests. China urges Japan and the Philippines to immediately stop all violation against China's rights and interests and take concrete actions to uphold regional peace and stability. Next one, please. Could you please turn on your microphone?
好的，谢谢发言人。北京日报记者提问。好的，谢谢。我们注意到海关。
We noted the General Administration of Customs announced that starting from July the 20th this year, China will grant full market access to coffee beans meeting quarantine requirements from all African countries that have diplomatic ties with China. These coffee beans can enter the Chinese market as long as they comply with requirements in GAC announcement number 68 of 2026, which is warmly welcomed by relevant African countries, was our comment. The zero tariff treatment for 53 African countries having diplomatic ties with China opens a window of opportunities for expanding African export to China. It embodies the principle of sincerity, real results, amity, and good faith, and the principle of pursuing the greater good and shared interests proposed by President Xi Jinping. We would like to see more African quality and specialty products in the Chinese market, and will make continued efforts to implement the zero tariff policy and expand access to African imports through upgrading the green lanes so that the zero tariff policy can better deliver for the peoples of both sides.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
还有其他问题吗？
Any more question?
那好，今天
This is the end of today's regular press conference. Thank you.